The emergency beacon had been transmitting for 3 solar cycles when Captain Zethera of the Galactic Confederation vessel Peaceful Dawn finally detected its weak signal. The crystalline being's multiple eye clusters focused on the sensor readings, each facet reflecting the soft blue light of the bridge displays. What she saw made her primary nervous system tingle with unease. Navigation Officer Kelm, plot a course to the beacon's coordinates immediately, she commanded, her voice creating harmonic frequencies that resonated through the ship's communication system. Kelm, a tall, willowy Etherian with translucent skin and flowing movements, gracefully manipulated the holographic controls. Course plotted, Captain. The signal appears to be coming from the Outer Rim territories, specifically the Kepler 442 system. Zethera's eye clusters dimmed slightly. The Outer Rim was notorious for its unstable governments and frequent conflicts between emerging species. More concerning was the fact that Kepler 442 was listed in the Confederation databases as a contested system, one where 3 different species were fighting for control of the mineral-rich planets. Communications Officer Tlana, can you decode the message? The insectoid Tlana's mandibles clicked as she worked, her 6 arms dancing across multiple control surfaces simultaneously. Captain, the message is using an old Confederation emergency protocol. It reads, Confederation vessel in distress. Colony ship New Horizon under attack by unknown hostiles. Request immediate assistance. Civilian population at risk. Coordinates attached. The bridge fell silent except for the gentle hum of the ship's binaural processors. Everyone knew that responding to distress calls in contested space was dangerous, but Confederation law was clear. No distress signal could be ignored. How long until we reach the system? Zethera asked. Approximately 18 standard hours at maximum warp, Captain, Kelm replied. Zethera's decision was swift. Engage maximum warp. Tlana sent a priority message to Confederation Command informing them of our course change and the distress signal. Also, research everything we can about the Kepler 442 system and any recent conflicts there. As the Peaceful Dawn stretched into warp space, its hull shimmering with exotic energy patterns, Tlana's research began painting a grim picture. The Kepler 442 system was home to an ongoing 3-way conflict between the militaristic Skarn Empire, the tech-focused Vorthan Collective, and a smaller but fierce species called the Drakmari. The system contained 7 planets, 3 of which were habitable. More importantly, the asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets contained some of the largest deposits of quantum-stable metals in known space. These materials were essential for faster-than-light communication and travel, making them incredibly valuable. Captain, Tlana reported, I've found records of the colony ship New Horizon. It's a Confederation civilian vessel that departed Earth colony Proxima 6 months ago with 15,000 human colonists aboard. Their destination was listed as the 2nd planet in the Kepler 442 system, which they had legal claim to under the Confederation colonization accords. Zethera's eye clusters brightened with interest. Humans were relatively new members of the Confederation, having joined only 50 standard years ago after first contact. They were known for their adaptability and surprising tenacity, though most Confederation species considered them to be from a remarkably hostile world by galactic standards. Their home planet, Earth, was classified as a Class 7 death world due to its extreme weather patterns, dangerous fauna, and the humans' own violent history. What do we know about human combat capabilities? She asked her tactical officer. A hulking Bronthan named Grix, whose rocky, mineral-based body made him naturally suited for combat analysis. Grix's voice rumbled like grinding stones. Humans are unusual, Captain. They have no natural weapons, no armor plating, no toxic secretions, or energy projection abilities. By all physical measures, they should be easy prey. However, their military records show an alarming tendency toward what they call escalation and something they refer to as spite-based tactical decisions. Explain, Zethera requested. Most species, when faced with overwhelming odds, will surrender or retreat to preserve their population. Humans appear to have an inverse response. The worse their situation becomes, the more dangerous and unpredictable their tactics grow. They have documented cases of single individuals holding off entire battalions through pure determination and what their military calls creative problem-solving. Plana's mandibles clicked nervously. Captain, I'm also seeing reports that suggest humans have never lost a war. They were truly committed to winning. Their concept of acceptable losses appears to be significantly higher than most species. 16 hours later, the Peaceful Dawn dropped out of warp at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they found was chaos. The second planet was surrounded by debris fields and energy signatures indicating massive space combat. 3 distinct fleet formations were engaged in a complex battle, with weapon signatures matching Scarn plasma cannons, Vorthan particle beams, and Drachmary missile swarms. Sensors are detecting multiple ship types, Kelm reported. Approximately 40 Scarn vessels, 30 Vorthan ships, and 25 Drachmary craft. They appear to be fighting each other as much as targeting something on the planet's surface. Can you locate the New Horizon? Zethera asked. Negative, Captain. However, I am detecting what appears to be a massive debris field in planetary orbit that matches the quantum signature of Confederation starship hull material. The implications hit everyone on the bridge simultaneously. The colony ship had been destroyed. Captain, Tlana announced, I'm receiving a tight beam communication from the planet's surface. It's using human encryption protocols. Put it through. The voice that came through the speakers was distinctly human, rough, tired, and carrying an accent that the universal translator identified as originating from Earth's North American continent. This is Colonel Sarah Martinez, acting commander of New Horizon Colony. Any Confederation vessel receiving this message, be advised that the colony ship was destroyed 3 days ago during the initial attack. We managed to evacuate most civilians to the planet's surface, but we're surrounded and under constant bombardment from 3 hostile fleets. The transmission crackled with interference from orbital weapon fire before continuing. We've established a defensive perimeter around landing Zone Alpha, approximately 15 kilometers north of the largest mineral deposit on the continent. We have 14,307 civilians and 843 military personnel. The 3 attacking fleets seem more interested in fighting each other than finishing us off, which is the only reason we're still alive. There was a pause, filled with the sound of distant explosions. To any Confederation vessel, we need immediate evacuation. Our defensive capabilities are limited, and we estimate we can hold out for maybe another 72 hours. Martina's out. Zethera's eye clusters dimmed as she processed the information. 15,000 humans trapped on a planet's surface while 3 hostile fleets battled overhead. The Peaceful Dawn was an exploration and diplomatic vessel, armed only with basic defensive weaponry. Against 40 ships, they would last mere minutes. Plana, send a message to Confederation Command. Request immediate military assistance and provide full tactical analysis of the situation. Already sent, Captain. However, the nearest Confederation battle group is 6 days away at maximum warp. Options. Zethera asked her senior staff. Grixa's mineral body shifted as he considered. We could attempt to negotiate with one of the fleets, offering to mediate the conflict in exchange for safe passage for the human colonists. The Skarn don't negotiate, Kelm pointed out. Their culture considers it weakness. The Vorthan might listen, but they would want significant technological concessions. The Drachmary are too honor-focused. They would see withdrawing as cowardice. Plana's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep thought among her species. Captain, there's another option. According to human military doctrine, they have protocols for what they call asymmetric warfare. If we could somehow tip the balance of the space battle. How? We have exactly 12 defensive plasma batteries and a diplomatic immunity beacon. What if we didn't fight the fleets directly? Plana suggested. What if we created a situation where they had to stop fighting each other and the colonists? Zethera focused all her eye clusters on the communications officer. Explain. Humans have a saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But they also have another saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. What if we made all three fleets believe that something much more dangerous was coming? A deception operation? Not exactly a deception, Tlana replied, her mandibles spreading in what her species used as a smile. Captain, humans are classified as a Deathworld species. What if word got out that this planet now contained 15,000 angry humans with nothing to lose? Grix's rocky form seemed to settle deeper into his station. Tlana, that's actually terrifying. Most species have heard the stories about human conflicts. If three fleets thought they were about to face entrenched human resistance, they might reconsider their priorities, Kelm finished. Zethera considered the plan. It was risky, potentially suicidal, and completely against standard Confederation protocols. It was also probably the only chance the human colonists had. Do it, she decided. But first, we need to talk to Colonel Martinez. If we're going to convince three alien fleets that they should be afraid of 15,000 stranded colonists, we need to make sure those colonists are ready to live up to their reputation. As Tlana began crafting what would later be called the Deathworld Gambit, none of them realized they were about to discover just how accurate humanity's reputation for dangerous creativity really was. The next phase of the plan would require the humans to do what humans did best: turn a hopeless situation into someone else's nightmare through sheer bloody-minded determination. On the planet below, Colonel Martinez was about to receive the strangest tactical support request in military history. And in typical human fashion, her response would be immediate, practical, and absolutely terrifying to anyone who understood what humans were capable of when they had nothing left to lose. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world, and why humans were considered the most dangerous species in Confederation space when properly motivated. The three alien fleets focused on their complex battle for mineral rights and territorial supremacy, had no idea that their biggest problem wasn't each other anymore. Their biggest problem was that they had just trapped 15,000 humans on a planet's surface and given them 3 days to get creative about the situation. In human military history, that was never a good sign for anyone except the humans. Colonel Sarah Martinez crouched behind a makeshift barrier of fused rock and salvaged metal plating, watching the tactical display on her wrist unit. The situation was grim, but she had been in grim situations before. What made this different was the scale and the stakes. 14,000 civilians depending on her to keep them alive while 3 alien fleets used their planet as a battleground. Her comm unit crackled with an incoming transmission from orbit. Colonel Martinez, this is Captain Zethera of the Confederation vessel Peaceful Dawn. We've received your distress signal and are prepared to assist. Sarah's tactical training kicked in immediately. 1 Confederation ship against 3 entire fleets meant nothing unless there was more to the story. Captain Zethera, what's your vessel class and combat capability? We're an exploration and diplomatic vessel, Colonel. Our combat capabilities are limited. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, running calculations. A diplomatic ship meant minimal weapons, minimal shields, and no chance of fighting their way out. Which meant the captain had something else in mind. What are you proposing, Captain? We have a plan that could work, but it requires your cooperation, and there was a pause. Your people's particular reputation for creative problem-solving under pressure. Sarah almost smiled. In military circles, creative problem-solving was usually code for doing something so crazy it might actually work. I'm listening. We're going to convince all 3 fleets that attacking your colony would be more trouble than it's worth. To do that, we need them to believe that 15,000 humans with nothing to lose represents a threat they cannot afford to engage. Captain, Sarah said slowly, are you asking us to bluff 3 entire fleets into backing down? Not exactly a bluff, Colonel. More like demonstrating why humans have a reputation they do. Sarah's smile widened. She was beginning to like this alien captain. What do you need us to do? Show them what happens when humans get creative with limited resources and unlimited motivation. 20 minutes later, Sarah was addressing her senior staff in what had been the colony ship's main conference room and was now a reinforced bunker carved into the rocky hillside. People, we have a chance to get out of this, but it's going to require us to lean into every stereotype the galaxy has about humans, she announced to the assembled officers. Captain Zethera's ship is going to broadcast our preparations to all 3 fleets, along with some carefully selected information about human military history. Major Tom Chun, her engineering officer, raised his hand. What kind of preparations, Colonel? The kind that make 3 different alien species decide that fighting each other is safer than finding out what we're building down here. Lieutenant Commander Rosa Santos, the former head of colony security, grinned. Ma'am, are you suggesting we turn this colony into something that looks like a human fortress? Not looks like Santos. Actually is. We're going to build something down here that would make any sane military commander think twice about orbital bombardment. Sarah activated the holographic display showing the colony's current layout. Chun, I want you to start construction on what appears to be a massive underground tunnel system. Use the mining equipment we salvaged from the ship. Make it look like we're building an underground city that could survive months of siege. That's actually not a bad idea, Chun mused. We do have the equipment, and the geology here is perfect for extensive excavation. Santos, I want visible defensive positions. Anti-aircraft emplacements, barriers, the works. Use salvage materials, and make them look like they could handle serious firepower. How serious are we talking? Serious enough that an orbital bombardment might not be sufficient to take us out quickly. Captain Lisa Park, the former ship's medical officer, spoke up. Colonel, what about the civilians? 14,000 people are going to be pretty obvious to thermal sensors. Sarah's expression grew more serious. That's where the real psychology comes in. We're not hiding our numbers. We're advertising them. 14,000 humans trapped on a planet with 3 months of supplies and unlimited access to mining equipment. To any alien species that studied human history, that's not a group of refugees. What is it? Park asked, though her expression suggested she was beginning to understand. It's an army with time to prepare. 2 hours later, the transformation of Landing Zone Alpha began in earnest. The salvaged mining equipment, originally intended to set up the colony's mineral extraction operations, was repurposed with typical human efficiency and creativity. Massive excavators that had been designed to carve out foundations for buildings instead began boring into the hillsides, creating what appeared to be an extensive tunnel network. The excavated material wasn't waste. It was carefully shaped into defensive positions and barriers that created overlapping fields of fire across the colony's perimeter. Meanwhile, aboard the Peaceful Dawn, Tlana was crafting the most important propaganda broadcast of her career. The message was simple. Earth's military databases were being transmitted to all 3 fleets, with particular focus on specific historical events. Attention all vessels in the Kepler 442 system. Tlana's voice transmitted across multiple frequencies. This is a Confederation priority bulletin regarding the human colony on Planet 2. For your tactical awareness, please note the following historical data. What followed was a carefully curated selection of human military achievements. The Siege of Stalingrad, where humans held out for 200 days against overwhelming odds. The Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 humans held off an army of thousands. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, where civilians with improvised weapons tied down professional soldiers for months. But Tlana was careful to include more recent, more technological examples. The defense of Firebase Charlie during the Proxima Rebellion, where 500 human Marines held off 10,000 automated war machines using nothing but salvaged equipment and what human commanders called aggressive engineering. The broadcast continued with technical specifications that made military commanders across 3 fleets pause their combat operations to listen more carefully. Human colonies are typically equipped with Mark 7 molecular fabricators, capable of converting raw materials into complex technological systems. Average human civilian has basic training in emergency engineering and improvised weapons construction. Standard colony complement includes personnel trained in military engineering, explosives, and what humans refer to as asymmetric warfare tactics. Aboard the Skarn flagship Blood Honor, War Commander Krextal studied the incoming data with growing unease. Skarn military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. The idea of fighting an enemy that would spend months underground, building unknown weapons from scavenged materials, went against every tactical principle they understood. Communications, he growled, get me intelligence analysis on human tunnel warfare. 5 minutes later, his intelligence officer was displaying holographic records that made Krextal's blood run cold. The Siuchi tunnels of Earth's Vietnam conflict, where humans had created underground cities that held off armies for years. The London Underground during the Blitz, where humans had turned subway systems into underground fortresses. War Commander, his intelligence officer reported, according to Confederation military files, humans have never lost a defensive siege where they had time to prepare and access to raw materials. On the Vorthan command ship logic prevails. Fleet Coordinator Zixandra was running probability calculations that produced increasingly disturbing results. Vorthan's strategy was based on precise tactical analysis and overwhelming technological superiority. Fighting an enemy that specialized in unpredictable improvisation using unknown technological configurations created too many variables for accurate prediction. Tactical analysis, she requested from her AI systems. Probability of successful planetary assault against entrenched human resistance with current fleet composition. The AI's response was immediate and troubling. Insufficient data. Human tactical patterns indicate high probability of technological surprises, environmental manipulation, and tactics outside known parameters. Recommend obtaining additional intelligence before engagement. Aboard the Drakmarie vessel Honor's Edge, Ship Commander Vashtar was experiencing something his warrior culture had no proper words for: strategic intimidation. Drakmarie Honor demanded facing enemies in direct combat, preferably ship-to-ship where skill and courage determined victory. The idea of spending months digging humans out of tunnels while they used improvised weapons and booby traps was not warfare, as his people understood it. Commander, his tactical officer reported, the humans appear to be constructing extensive fortifications. Our sensors are detecting energy signatures consistent with heavy construction equipment operating at maximum capacity. Show me. The holographic display revealed a transformation that was happening with disturbing speed. In just 6 hours, the human landing zone had been converted from a refugee camp into something that looked increasingly like a fortress. Defensive positions were being carved directly into the rock face. Tunnels were being extended in patterns that suggested complex underground infrastructure. Most troubling, energy signatures indicated that the humans were not just building shelters. They were building something that required significant power generation. What are they constructing that requires that much power? Vashtar demanded. Unknown, Commander. The energy patterns are consistent with either manufacturing facilities or weapon systems. Possibly both. The psychological warfare campaign was working better than Captain Zethera had dared hope. All three fleets had significantly reduced their orbital bombardment of the colony site and were clearly reassessing their tactical positions. But the real masterstroke came 12 hours later, when Colonel Martinez implemented what she privately called the demonstration. Using the colony's mining charges and some creative chemistry from the salvaged ship's laboratory, the humans created a controlled explosion that registered as a significant seismic event across the planet. To orbital sensors, it looked like the humans had just detonated something underground with the explosive yield of a small tactical nuclear weapon. The explosion was followed immediately by Tlana's carefully timed broadcast. Confederation Emergency Bulletin. Human colony reports successful completion of Phase 1 defensive preparations. Please note that human military doctrine includes extensive use of improvised explosive devices, environmental modification, and what human tactical manuals refer to as scorched earth defensive strategies. Aboard all three flagships, military commanders found themselves facing the same uncomfortable realization. The humans weren't just building defenses. They were building something that could potentially deny the entire planet to anyone who tried to take it by force. The Skarn War Commander was the first to vocalize what everyone was thinking. How much damage could 15,000 humans do to this planet if they had 3 months to prepare and unlimited access to mining equipment? His intelligence officer's response was immediate and chilling. According to their historical records, sir, humans have demonstrated the ability to make planets uninhabitable rather than surrender them to enemies. The technical term in their military doctrine is rendering the territory strategically worthless. The three-way battle for control of the Kepler 442 system was about to become something much more complicated. A three-way negotiation about how to deal with 15,000 humans who had just demonstrated that they were prepared to turn the entire planet into their fortress. And Colonel Martinez, monitoring the increasingly nervous communications between the three fleets, was beginning to think their crazy plan might actually work. The galaxy was about to learn its first lesson about human strategic thinking. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to convince everyone involved that fighting you would be more expensive than whatever they were fighting about in the first place. The breakthrough came when the three fleet commanders realized they were facing a problem none of their military academies had prepared them for: how to conduct a profitable war when the enemy was actively making the prize worthless. War Commander Krextal of the Skarn was the first to request direct communication with the human colony. His message was transmitted on open channels, ensuring all three fleets could monitor the conversation. Human Commander, his translator rendered his growling voice into Standard Galactic. This is War Commander Krextal of the Skarn Empire. We wish to discuss terms. Colonel Martinez, monitoring from her command bunker 50 meters underground, exchanged glances with her senior staff. Major Chun mouthed the words, "Holy shit," in what he thought was silence, while Lieutenant Commander Santos was already pulling up negotiation protocols on her tactical display. War Commander Krextal, Sarah responded, her voice carrying the tone of someone who is absolutely not impressed by alien military titles. "I'm Colonel Sarah Martinez. What terms did you have in mind? We are prepared to offer safe passage off-planet for your civilian population in exchange for immediate cessation of your construction activities." Sarah let the silence stretch for exactly 15 seconds, long enough for all three fleets to wonder what she was considering, not long enough to seem weak. It was a technique she had learned from hostage negotiation training, and it worked just as well on alien war commanders as it did on desperate criminals. "War Commander, I appreciate the offer, but you seem to be under a misunderstanding about our situation here." "Explain." "We're not trying to evacuate. We're trying to establish a colony. This planet was legally claimed under the Confederation Colonization Accord 6 months ago. We have every right to be here." Aboard the Skarn flagship, Krextal's military advisors were frantically pulling up legal databases. The humans were correct. They had filed proper colonial claims, complete with Confederation approval and mineral rights documentation. Attacking them was technically an act of war against the Confederation itself. However, Sarah continued, and every military commander listening leaned forward slightly, "I understand you have competing claims to this system. Perhaps we can work something out." Fleet Coordinator Zixandra of the Vorthan Collective was the next to join the conversation. "Colonel Martinez, this is Fleet Coordinator Zixandra. Our analysis suggests your defensive preparations could render this planet's mineral resources inaccessible. This would be counterproductive for all parties." Sarah smiled, though none of the aliens could see it. The Vorthan had just admitted that the psychological warfare was working. They were worried about what the humans might be building. "Fleet Coordinator," Sarah replied, "that's exactly the kind of practical thinking we need here. What if I told you that human mining technology could actually increase the efficiency of mineral extraction in this system by approximately 300%? That statement hit all three fleets like a plasma blast. Increased efficiency meant increased profits, which was the entire reason they were fighting over the system in the first place. Ship Commander Vashtar of the Drakmarie was the third to join what was rapidly becoming a four-way negotiation. Human Commander, the Drakmarie respect strength and honor in battle. Your preparations have shown both. We would hear your proposal. Sarah glanced at her staff. They were in completely uncharted territory now. A human colonial commander negotiating directly with 3 hostile alien fleets. But it was better than being bombed from orbit. Here's what I propose, she began. The Kepler 442 system has 7 planets and the largest asteroid belt in this sector. There's more than enough here for everyone, if we're smart about it. She activated her tactical display, broadcasting the system map to all 4 ships. Planet 2, where we are, becomes a joint human confederation colony focused on advanced mining operations. We provide the technology and expertise. The Confederation provides legal protection and trade infrastructure. Planet 4 has the atmospheric composition ideal for Skarn habitation. The asteroid belt between planets 4 and 5 contains enough rare metals to fuel Skarn military expansion for the next 50 years. Planet 6 is a gas giant with moons that would be perfect for Vorthan manufacturing facilities. Access to our mining technology would give you raw materials at a fraction of current costs. Planet 7 is a high-gravity world that would suit Drakmarie environmental preferences, and it's in a perfect position to control shipping lanes through the outer system. The four-way communication channel fell silent as 3 military commanders realized they were listening to a human offering them more than they had been fighting for, in exchange for ending a war that was costing all of them resources. What do you require in return? Zixandra asked, her Vorthan practicality cutting straight to the heart of the matter. First, immediate cessation of hostilities in this system. Second, formal recognition of human colonial rights to Planet 2. Third, a mutual defense agreement. Anyone who attacks one of us attacks all of us. And fourth, Krextal prompted, sensing there was more. Fourth, we establish this system as a free trade zone. No tariffs, no restrictions, open commerce between all 4 parties. We turn Kepler 442 into the most profitable system in this sector instead of the most contested. Major Chan was staring at his colonel with undisguised amazement. In less than 24 hours, she had gone from commanding a desperate defensive action to proposing the economic integration of 3 hostile alien species. Colonel, Vashtar's voice carried something that might have been respect. You propose to turn a battlefield into a marketplace. Ship Commander, human history has shown us that trade wars are much more profitable than shooting wars. Everyone makes money instead of everyone losing ships. The proposal has merit, Zixandra admitted. However, verification of your mining technology claims would be required. Of course, Sarah agreed. Major Chun, transmit our preliminary geological survey data to all 3 fleets. The data package that Chun transmitted was exactly the kind of carrot the humans needed to seal their deal. The geological surveys showed mineral deposits that were significantly larger and more accessible than any of the 3 fleets had detected. More importantly, they showed how human mining technology could extract those minerals without the environmental devastation that typically came with large-scale mining operations. How is this level of extraction efficiency possible? Krextal demanded. Humans come from a world where we had to learn efficient resource extraction or face environmental collapse, Sarah explained. We developed techniques that maximize yield while minimizing ecological damage. Applied to planets with fewer environmental constraints, the efficiency gains are substantial. She paused, then added the statement that would later be quoted in economic treaties across the galaxy. War Commander, the choice is simple. You can fight each other for 30% of this system's resources, or work with us and get 90% of resources that are 3 times larger than you originally estimated. The mathematics were undeniable. Cooperation offered all parties more wealth and conflict, with significantly lower risk. But Sarah knew the real genius of the proposal was that it solved each species' core motivations. The Skarn wanted resources for military expansion. The system could provide that. The Vorthen wanted efficient industrial development. Human mining technology offered that. The Drakmari wanted honorable conflict. Protecting a profitable trade system from outside threats would provide that. There is one additional consideration, Vashtar pointed out. Other factions will attempt to seize control of this system once word spreads of its value. How do we address external threats? Sarah had been waiting for exactly that question. That's where the Mutual Defense Agreement becomes crucial. A Skarn-Vorthen Drakmari human alliance, controlling the most profitable system in the sector, would be strong enough to discourage interference from outside parties. You propose a military alliance between 4 species that have been fighting each other for decades. Krextal asked. I propose an economic partnership protected by military alliance between 4 species that are about to become very wealthy together. Aboard the Peaceful Dawn, Captain Zethera was monitoring the negotiations with growing amazement. The humans had managed to transform a military crisis into a diplomatic breakthrough. Her communications officer Tlana's mandibles were clicking in what her species considered to be profound admiration. Captain, Tlana observed, the humans have achieved something remarkable here. They have convinced 3 hostile fleets to consider cooperation by offering them something more valuable than what they were fighting over. What's more remarkable, Captain Zethera replied, is that they're doing it while surrounded, outnumbered, and technically at the mercy of those same fleets. That's very human, Grix commented from his tactical station. According to their military history, humans often perform their best negotiations when their backs are against the wall. The truth was that Sarah Martinez was negotiating from a position of carefully constructed strength. The underground construction had continued during the talks, and the human colony now actually could hold out for months if necessary. The demonstrations of explosive capability were real. The humans had managed to convert mining equipment into defensive systems that could make any invasion extremely costly. But more importantly, Sarah understood something about military psychology that her alien counterparts were just beginning to appreciate. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is one who has nothing to lose and unlimited time to get creative about their situation. The humans had spent 18 hours showing 3 alien fleets exactly how creative 15,000 humans could get when properly motivated. Now, they were offering those same fleets a way to profit from that creativity instead of trying to overcome it. As the negotiations entered their second day, it was becoming clear that the galaxy was about to witness the first interspecies economic alliance in the Outer Rim territories, founded on the simple principle that humans had learned over centuries of conflict. It's easier to make friends and enemies, and much more profitable in the long run. The Kepler 442 system was about to become the most successful example of economic cooperation in Confederation space. And it all started because 3 alien fleets made the mistake of trapping 15,000 humans on a planet and giving them time to think about their situation. As Sarah often said in later interviews, humans were remarkably good at turning problems into opportunities, especially when the alternative was extinction. 6 months later, the Kepler 442 system had become the most unlikely success story in Confederation space. What had started as a military crisis had evolved into the galaxy's most profitable interspecies economic cooperation zone. The transformation was staggering. Planet 2, now officially designated as Haven Colony, had grown from a desperate refugee settlement to a bustling mining and technology center with a population of 30,000. The original 15,000 human colonists had been joined by Confederation technical specialists, Skarn military engineers, Vorthen industrial designers, and even some Drakmari security experts. Colonel Sarah Martinez, now bearing the title of planetary administrator, stood on the observation deck of the newly completed orbital station, watching cargo ships from a dozen different species loading refined materials from the planet's surface. The view was impressive, but what made her smile was the communication chatter filtering through the station's speakers. Skarn freighter Iron Claw requesting priority, docking for rare metal shipment to Homeworld. Vorthen industrial transport logics reward ready for departure with refined quantum crystals. Drakmarie escort vessel honors shield beginning patrol route through outer asteroid field. Human survey ship New Frontier returning from Planet 6 with mineral analysis data. It was the sound of successful cooperation, something that would have been impossible to imagine during those first terrifying days when 3 hostile fleets had been ready to glass the planet. Administrator Martinez, came a voice from behind her. She turned to see Captain Zethera approaching, her crystalline form reflecting the light from the system star. The Confederation captain had become a regular visitor to Haven Colony, serving as the official liaison between the unusual alliance and the broader galactic community. Captain Zethera, always a pleasure. How are the integration protocols progressing? Better than anyone at Confederation Command believed possible, the captain replied, her multiple eye clusters focusing on the display screens, showing real-time economic data from across the system. Total resource extraction is up 400% from pre-alliance levels. Industrial output has increased by 600%. Most importantly, armed conflicts in this sector have decreased by 90%. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Amazing what people can accomplish when they're making money instead of making war. The Confederation Council has officially designated Kepler 442 as a model for future interspecies economic development. 3 other systems have requested similar arrangements. That was gratifying news, but Sarah had learned to be cautious about rapid expansion. The success of Haven Colony was built on very specific circumstances and very careful relationship management. How are our partners handling the attention? She asked. War Commander Krextau reports that the Skarn High Command is extremely pleased with the military applications of human mining technology. Apparently, the ability to quickly establish fortified positions on hostile worlds has revolutionized their defensive doctrine. Sarah chuckled. The Skarn have been fascinated by human engineering techniques, particularly the speed with which humans could convert raw terrain into defensive positions. What had started as desperate construction during the original crisis had evolved into a formalized training exchange. Skarn military engineers now studied at Haven Colony, while human defensive specialists advised Skarn fortress construction projects throughout their territory. Fleet Coordinator Zixandra informs me that Vorthan industrial efficiency has improved by 30% system-wide since implementing human resource extraction protocols, Zethera continued. They're particularly impressed by what they call human adaptability algorithms, the ability to modify techniques based on changing circumstances. And the Drakmarie? Ship Commander Vashtar has been promoted to Fleet Commander based on his success here. The Drakmarie High Honor Council has declared the Kepler 442 Alliance to be an honorable victory achieved through strength and wisdom. High praise from a warrior culture. Sarah's smile widened. The Drakmarie had initially been the most difficult partners to work with, as their honor-based culture struggled with the concept of economic cooperation. The breakthrough had come when they reframed the alliance as a defensive pact protecting valuable territory from external threats. Once the Drakmarie understood their role as guardians of the system's prosperity, they had embraced the partnership enthusiastically. Speaking of external threats, Sarah said, how are the other powers in this sector responding to our success? Captain Zethera's expression grew more serious. That's actually why I'm here, Administrator. Intelligence reports suggest that several parties are showing increased interest in the Kepler 442 system. Sarah felt the familiar tingle of approaching crisis, the same sensation she had experienced during her military career. What kind of interest? The hegemony of Zarketh has been making inquiries about irregular economic activity in this sector. The corporate syndicate of Veltar has dispatched survey ships to the neighboring systems. Most concerning, we've detected long-range reconnaissance probes of unknown origin conducting detailed scans of system traffic. Sarah walked to the tactical display and called up the current system map. What she saw was both impressive and potentially troubling. The Kepler 442 system now hosted significant infrastructure, mining platforms in the asteroid belt, manufacturing facilities on 3 different worlds, defensive stations at strategic points, and constant traffic from ships representing dozens of different species. From a military perspective, she mused, we've created exactly the kind of target that attracts unwanted attention. Rich, successful, and apparently undefended. Apparently undefended? Captain Zethera questioned. Sarah's expression shifted into what Major Chun had learned to recognize as her tactical planning mode. Captain, what do intelligence reports say about our actual defensive capabilities? According to public records, the Kepler 442 Alliance maintains minimal defensive forces. 1 Skarn Patrol Squadron, 2 Vorthen Industrial Defense Platforms, 3 Drakmari escort vessels, and basic Confederation peacekeeping units. And what do those same intelligence reports say about human military presence? Colonial security forces only. No significant military assets. Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Perfect. That's exactly what we want potential threats to believe. She activated a secured communication channel that required authorization from all 4 alliance partners. Within minutes, holographic projections of War Commander Krextal, Fleet Coordinator Zixandra, and Ship Commander Vashtar appeared around the tactical display. Gentlemen, we have a situation that requires discussion, Sarah began. Intelligence indicates that external parties are showing interest in our success here. We need to decide how to respond to potential threats. Krextal's hologram showed his typical aggressive stance. The Skarn response to threats is direct confrontation. We have sufficient forces to discourage most interference. The Vorthen approach would be technological deterrence, Zixandra countered. Advanced defensive systems and superior industrial capacity make attacking us economically unviable. Vashtar's projection remained still for a moment, then spoke with the measured tone of her experienced warrior. The Drakmari way is to demonstrate strength through controlled displays of capability. Let potential enemies understand the cost of aggression without forcing unnecessary conflict. All good approaches, Sarah acknowledged, but I think we need something more comprehensive. We need to make potential aggressors understand that attacking the Kepler 442 Alliance would be the worst mistake they could make. She activated a series of files that had been carefully prepared over the past 6 months. What appeared on the display was a complete breakdown of the Alliance's actual defensive capabilities, information that had been kept strictly classified. War Commander Krextal, please share current Skarn force deployments. Krextal's expression showed what might have been a smile. Planetary defense includes 2 full battle squadrons, orbital weapon platforms at all major asteroid mining facilities, and rapid response forces stationed at 3 strategic points throughout the system. Fleet Coordinator Zixandra, Vorthen Industrial Defense status? All manufacturing facilities are equipped with automated defense systems capable of converting to weapons production within 6 hours. Additionally, we have developed new shield technologies based on human adaptive engineering principles. Current defensive efficiency is approximately 3 times greater than standard Confederation estimates. Ship Commander Vashtar, Drakmari readiness? Honor demands truth. The Drakmari have established this system as a priority defense zone. Full fleet elements are positioned to respond to threats within 4 hours. Additionally, Drakmari Special Forces have been training in human tunnel warfare techniques. Any ground assault would face significant challenges. Sarah nodded approvingly. And now for the human contribution to system defense. She activated a final file that made all 3 alien commanders lean forward with interest. Over the past 6 months, human engineers have been busy. We now have underground facilities on all inhabited worlds in this system. Not just mining tunnels, full military infrastructure designed to survive and respond to orbital bombardment. The display showed a 3-dimensional map of tunnels, bunkers, supply depots, and manufacturing facilities that honeycombed the major worlds throughout the Kepler 442 system. It was an engineering achievement that would have been impossible for any single species, but the combined resources and techniques of 4 different civilizations had made it feasible. Additionally, Sarah continued, we've established what human military doctrine calls distributed defense networks. Every mining platform, every manufacturing facility, every orbital station has been equipped with defensive systems that can coordinate through quantum encrypted communication networks. The result is a defense system where attacking any single target triggers response from the entire network. Enemy forces would not be facing individual defensive positions. They would be fighting the entire system simultaneously. Fleet Coordinator Zixandra's analytical mind immediately grasped the implications. Any attacking force would face the combined military capabilities of 4 different species, utilizing integrated technology and coordinated tactics. More than that, War Commander Krextal added, his aggressive nature appreciating the strategic elegance. They would face 4 different military doctrines operating together. No standard tactical analysis could predict our response patterns. Ship Commander Vashtar remained quiet for a moment, then spoke with deep respect. Administrator Martinez, you have created something that honors all our traditions while being stronger than any of them alone. Gentlemen, we've built something unique in galactic history, a truly integrated interspecies defense network built on economic cooperation and mutual benefit. The question now is how to communicate that reality to potential threats without seeming aggressive ourselves. Sarah pulled up communication protocols that would have made her old instructors at the military academy proud. I propose we conduct a series of routine defense exercises over the next month. Nothing threatening, just normal military training that happens to demonstrate our integrated capabilities. The exercises would be open to observation by any interested parties. Complete transparency about our defensive preparedness, while maintaining the diplomatic fiction that we're simply a peaceful economic cooperation zone. Captain Zithera, who had been listening to the entire conversation, spoke up. Administrator, that's remarkably similar to what humans did when you first convinced the 3 fleets to negotiate. You're using demonstration rather than threats to shape perception. Captain, humans have learned that the best way to avoid fights is to make sure everyone understands exactly what they would be getting into. Most rational actors will choose not to fight an enemy that's prepared and unified. As the conference concluded and the various commanders signed off to begin preparations for the routine exercises, Sarah remained on the observation deck, watching the busy traffic of the most successful interspecies cooperation zone in known space. In 1 month, the galaxy would see exactly what happened when humans, Skarn, Vorthan, and Drakmari worked together as a unified defense force. The demonstrations would be impressive, coordinated, and absolutely terrifying to anyone considering aggressive action against the Kepler 442 system. The galaxy was about to learn its second lesson about human strategic thinking. The best defense is making sure everyone understands that attacking you would be expensive, complicated, and ultimately pointless. And if the exercises went as planned, the Kepler 442 Alliance would continue to be the most prosperous and secure system in the sector, protected not by threats, but by the simple understanding that some targets were too dangerous to be worth the risk. The routine exercises began exactly 30 days later, and within 6 hours, every major intelligence service in the sector was scrambling to understand what they were witnessing. The hegemony of Zarketh had positioned their stealth reconnaissance ship Shadow's Edge at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, expecting to observe standard military drills that would reveal defensive weaknesses. Instead, they found themselves documenting the most sophisticated interspecies military coordination ever recorded. Commander Ythera of the Shadow's Edge watched her tactical displays with growing unease. Intelligence Officer Kexral, confirm these readings. Confirm, Commander. The defensive exercise demonstrates full integration of 4 distinct military doctrines. Skarn aggressive assault tactics, Vorthan technological superiority, Drakmari honor-based combat protocols, and human adaptability. What does that mean exactly? Commander, human military responses appear to modify in real time based on changing battlefield conditions. Their defensive positions are reconfiguring themselves during the exercise to counter theoretical attack patterns that haven't been used yet. Commander Ythera focused all 6 of her ocular organs on the display. What she saw challenged everything the hegemony understood about military planning. Standard defensive exercises followed predetermined scripts designed to test specific capabilities. What the Kepler 442 alliance was demonstrating appeared to be genuine adaptive strategy. Military units responding to hypothetical threats as if they were facing unknown enemies. How is real-time tactical adaptation possible? Unknown, Commander. The communication coordination required for this level of integration should be impossible for 4 different species using different command structures. On the planet's surface, Colonel Sarah Martinez was monitoring the exercise from the primary command bunker, a facility that had grown from desperate excavation 6 months ago into a sophisticated strategic operations center. Around her, human, Skarn, Vorthin, and Drakmari officers worked together with an efficiency that would have seemed impossible to any outside observer. Exercise control, this is Haven Defense Network, reported Major Chun from his engineering station. All underground facilities are demonstrating coordinated response protocols. Theoretical enemy forces attempting to target manufacturing centers would trigger simultaneous defensive response from 17 different locations. Acknowledged engineering. Orbital defense. Report status. Lieutenant Commander Santos, now bearing the title of System Defense Coordinator, managed the space-based portion of the exercise. All orbital platforms are demonstrating integrated fire control. Theoretical attacking fleet would face coordinated response from Skarn heavy weapons, Vorthin particle arrays, and Drakmari missile systems, all guided by human adaptive targeting protocols. Outstanding. Fleet Command, show me our rapid response capabilities. The voice that replied belonged to Ship Commander Vashtar, speaking from the bridge of his flagship in the outer system. Administrator Martinez, honor demands honest reporting. Any attacking force entering this system would face immediate response from distributed fleet elements positioned throughout the asteroid belt. Response time to any threatened location is now under 40 minutes. Sarah smiled with satisfaction. The exercise was going exactly as planned. More importantly, every intelligence service watching would be documenting capabilities that made attacking the Kepler 442 system appear to be an incredibly bad investment. War Commander Krextal, please demonstrate our industrial conversion capabilities. With pleasure, Administrator. Manufacturing facilities are showing theoretical conversion from civilian production to military support in under 6 hours. Additionally, our mining operations can now produce fortified positions faster than most species can advance ground forces. But the real demonstration was yet to come. Sarah had saved the most psychologically effective element for the end of the exercise. All units, prepare for final demonstration. Integrated species coordination under pressure. What happened next would later be studied in military academies throughout Confederation space. The exercise simulated a massive coordinated attack on the system by hostile forces, requiring real-time coordination between 4 different species with completely different military traditions. Skarn forces demonstrated their traditional aggressive counterattack doctrine, but modified by human adaptive strategies that allowed them to coordinate with Vorthin precision-based defensive systems. Drakmari honor-based combat protocols were integrated with human flexibility and Vorthin technological superiority. The result was a defensive network that combined the best elements of all 4 military traditions while eliminating the weaknesses of any single approach. Aboard the hidden reconnaissance ship, Commander Yathera was witnessing something that made her military training inadequate. Kexral, theoretical analysis. What would be the projected casualties for a hegemony assault on this system? The intelligence officer's response took several minutes, as his computer systems struggled to process the variables. Commander, the analysis is problematic. Standard assault doctrine assumes defensive forces will follow predictable patterns. The integration demonstrated here makes prediction impossible. Estimate. Best case scenario for attacking forces. 70% casualties before achieving any strategic objectives. Worst case scenario. Complete destruction of assault fleet with minimal impact on defensive capabilities. Commander Yathera felt something her species rarely experienced: strategic intimidation. The hegemony's entire military doctrine was based on overwhelming force against isolated targets. The Kepler 442 alliance had demonstrated that they were neither overwhelmable nor isolated. Kexral, priority transmission to Hegemony Command. Recommend against military action in Kepler 442 system. Target demonstrates unprecedented defensive integration and adaptive capabilities. Similar reports were being transmitted by the corporate syndicate of Veltar's intelligence ship and the unknown reconnaissance probes. Across the sector, military planners were reaching the same conclusion. Whatever was happening in the Kepler 442 system represented a new paradigm in interspecies cooperation, and it was not something that could be overcome by conventional military action. 3 days after the exercises concluded, Sarah received a message that confirmed their strategy had worked perfectly. Administrator Martinez, Captain Zethera announced during their regular briefing, "I have communications from 3 separate powers that have been monitoring our system." "Go ahead, Captain." The hegemony of Zarketh has transmitted a formal request to establish trade relations with the Kepler 442 Alliance. They're particularly interested in purchasing human adaptive engineering protocols. Sarah raised an eyebrow. 6 months ago, the hegemony had been considered a potential military threat. Now, they wanted to buy human technology. The corporate syndicate of Veltar has requested permission to establish a permanent trading post in the outer system. They're offering exclusive contracts for rare metal distribution throughout their territory. And the third, most interesting, administrator. We've received a message from an organization that identifies itself only as Independent Systems Coalition. They request a meeting to discuss mutual cooperation against common threats. Sarah considered this development. Unknown parties conducting reconnaissance usually meant intelligence services from major powers. If they were now requesting meetings, it meant the exercises had achieved their primary objective, demonstrating that the Kepler 442 Alliance was too powerful to attack and too valuable to ignore. Captain, schedule meetings with all 3 parties. But make sure they understand that any discussions will include all 4 alliance partners. We're not negotiating separate deals. Understood, Administrator. 2 weeks later, the first Interspecies Economic and Defense Summit was held aboard the orbital station above Haven Colony. The meeting room contained representatives from 7 different species, something that would have been impossible before the creation of the Kepler 442 Alliance. The hegemony delegation was led by Trade Commander Zolketh, whose multiple arms gestured expressively as she spoke. The hegemony acknowledges the Alliance's demonstrated capabilities and wishes to establish mutually beneficial economic relationships. The corporate syndicate representative, a crystalline entity called Profit Assessor Quintal, communicated through harmonic frequencies. Syndicate analysis indicates that cooperation with the Alliance offers superior returns compared to competitive strategies. But the most interesting delegation came from the Independent Systems Coalition, led by someone who introduced herself simply as Coordinator Saxarin. Her species was unknown to the Confederation databases, but her message was clear. The Coalition represents 37 systems that have chosen independence from the major galactic powers. We seek alliance with organizations that demonstrate both defensive capability and economic prosperity. Sarah exchanged glances with her partner commanders. The possibility of expanding their model to other systems had always been part of their long-term planning, but they had expected it to happen gradually. Coordinator Saxarin, Sarah replied, the Kepler 442 Alliance would be willing to discuss mutual cooperation, but we need to understand what you're offering and what you're requesting. We offer access to trade networks spanning 40% of the Outer Rim territories. We request advisors to help establish similar economic defense alliances in coalition systems. War Commander Krextal leaned forward aggressively. You request our expertise in building integrated defense networks. Exactly. The Coalition has observed that isolated systems are vulnerable to exploitation by major powers. The Alliance model offers protection through cooperation rather than submission. Fleet Coordinator Zixandra's analytical mind immediately grasped the implications. You propose expanding the Alliance concept to multiple systems, creating a network of economically integrated defensive partnerships. The coalition proposes transformation of the Outer Rim from contested territory controlled by competing empires into independent economic zones protected by mutual defense agreements. Sarah felt the familiar sensation of a small tactical situation expanding into something much larger. 6 months ago, she had been trying to keep 15,000 colonists alive. Now she was being asked to help reshape the political structure of an entire sector of the galaxy. "Gentlemen," she said to her partner commanders, "I believe we need to discuss this privately before making any commitments." The conference went into recess while the 4 alliance leaders met in Sarah's private office overlooking the bustling colony below. "Are we ready for this level of expansion?" she asked directly. Ship Commander Vashtar spoke first. "Honor demands consideration of those who seek protection through strength and cooperation. The Coalition's proposal aligns with Drachmarie values." War Commander Krextal was more cautious. "Expansion offers opportunity for greater influence, but also greater risk. The Alliance must maintain the strength to protect what it builds." Fleet Coordinator Zixandra approached the question analytically. "Economic benefits of expanded cooperation are substantial. Risk assessment suggests that isolation is more dangerous than controlled expansion." Sarah nodded slowly. "Then, we're in agreement. We expand carefully, with each new system required to demonstrate commitment to both economic cooperation and integrated defense." When the conference reconvened, the announcement that Sarah made would later be recognized as the founding moment of the Outer Rim Alliance, a political and economic federation that would grow to include over 200 systems. The Kepler 442 Alliance accepts the Coalition's proposal, she announced. "We will provide advisors and expertise for establishing similar cooperative defense networks throughout the Outer Rim territories." However, War Commander Krextal added, "Membership requires demonstrated commitment to both economic integration and mutual defense. We will not support systems that want protection without contributing to collective security." Additionally, Fleet Coordinator Zixandra continued, "Technological sharing will be reciprocal. Each system must contribute unique capabilities to the collective defense network." Ship Commander Vashtar concluded the announcement. "The Alliance honors strength through cooperation. Systems that demonstrate this principle will find the Alliance to be a powerful ally." 6 months later, the first Outer Rim Alliance Congress convened on Haven Colony, with representatives from 43 systems. The opening address was delivered by Admiral Sarah Martinez, the first human to hold flag rank in an interspecies military alliance. 1 year ago, she told the assembled delegates, 15,000 humans sent out a distress call. Help was requested, and the galaxy responded, not with a rescue, but with an opportunity to prove that cooperation is stronger than conflict, that trade is more profitable than war, and that diversity of species and cultures makes us stronger, not weaker. Today, we represent 200 million beings across 43 systems. We are humans and Skarn, Vorthen and Drachmarie, and 39 other species that have chosen cooperation over conquest. We are proof that when civilizations work together, everyone prospers. We are the future of the galaxy." In the audience, Captain Zethera of the Peaceful Dawn listened with profound satisfaction. The distress call she had responded to a year ago had indeed changed everything, just not in any way she could have predicted. The galaxy had learned its final lesson about humans. They were at their most dangerous when they had nothing to lose, but they were at their most powerful when they convinced everyone else that working together was better than fighting. The Outer Rim Alliance would grow to become the largest peaceful interspecies federation in galactic history, founded on the simple principle that humans had demonstrated that day when 3 hostile fleets found themselves negotiating instead of fighting. Sometimes the best way to win is to make sure everyone wins. And it all started because somebody requested help, and the Deathworlders came.